So, ladies, I don't know if I'm live. It says live, but it takes me a while to. There we go. It says live, but it takes me a while to confirm that I'm live. So I'm actually on the live line. So let's talk a little bit about. There's a few things that I want to cover today, which is some of the work with the communications, conversations, and chats that I've been having with a few people. So if you feel like this is you, come in and let me know. I want to talk about princess syndrome, and I want to talk about passive communication, where that comes from, versus aggressive communication and where that comes from. So, the first thing I wanted to kind of go into is what passive communication says. Now, if this sounds like you are in a passive communication style. So, passive communication is I always get stepped on by everyone. People walk all over me. People never consider my feelings. I always do everything for everybody else. Nobody sees me or what I do. Passive communicators don't know what their rights are. They don't know what their rights are because a lot of it is hinged in codependency and a relationship of self-service with unfulfilling content for yourself. So they're the kind of the peacekeepers. They don't want to rock the boat, right? They don't want to say anything that stands outside of that other person's. It's very much like nice girl, and this is a trauma response. This is a freeze response of coming from a place that's like always wanting to please and fit in and look after and all this, and it's this kind of like here's the vein, here's the cut me vein. It's a communicative sort of act, and it just doesn't get us what we want, really, and it feels horrible. It feels horrible. Passive communicators ignore and mask the truth about how they feel and what they want in a way to avoid conflict. So you become resentful of not having your needs met, and guilt can really come into this as well and become known to be something because you're not being honest with yourself. So you are, in a way, you're betraying yourself and you create social anxiety from it. So there is a part of you that's inside that's really wanting to be heard and expressed and felt and seen, but you're masking this kind of conformity on the front and not speaking your truth. And by doing that, you're playing safe, so you're not stepping outside of the box. So we avoid fear, we avoid rejection, we avoid, standing up and being tall. We avoid being successful. Like, that's a huge one, like, because that feels unsafe, right? It feels weird. It feels unsafe because it's not a normal thing. It's something that's outside of the box. It's something that feels uncomfortable, because if we've been brought up and we've had lives that are constantly in a way of I don't feel like I deserve this because I've always had this in my life, right? We create chaos within our own lives because that's what feels comfortable. And this used to be a really big part of my life, and speaking softly and apologetically for everything was another way of kind of backing down and not standing into that space, especially around men, especially around authority figures, especially around workplaces, those sort of things. Like, we can really shrink ourselves down, and by doing that, it is really shutting down not just ourselves and our minds, but our higher awareness and consciousness of the places that we can go to. So this is a freeze response. Passive communication is a freeze response. Apologizing before you even communicate anything is a freeze response. I'm really sorry, but just this one thing, if you could just, or like just all the time, like apologizing for shit that, like, as British culture, we apologize for shit that we don't need to apologize for. Like, you bump into someone in the street and you're like, oh, really sorry. All right, dude, why are you sorry? You didn't need to apologize. You've not done anything. It's just, it's constant, like, and like Europeans don't have that, right? Like, actually most like Russians and stuff like that, they see that kind of apologetic nicey thing as like really untrustworthy because it's extremely manipulative. So you'll get a Russian and be like, I don't like you, young girl, why are you acting so, they're just fucking straightforward about it, and they tell the truth. So it's a cultural, it's a cancel cultural thing, but it's also something that's ingrained instinctively within females. We have to apologize for being ourselves and speaking up and having voices, whereas with men, which is why I work with females, because that is that particular area that they need help with, whereas with men it's very much like they are praised for being bold and speaking up and taking up space and owning a room as soon as they walk into it, right? But these are skills that we can use as females to progress, and you can go to a therapist for 5-10 years and try and build confidence and speak about your social anxiety or whatever. Or you could do a 20-minute body skills workshop with me where we look at posture and tone and pause and have that skill down within the space of 20 minutes. So it really depends on, you can do it that way. It'll be a lot harder. Or you could do one of the workshops with me and work specifically on the areas that you need to improve on. If you're watching in the thingy, come and say hi so I can say hello, because there is a few new people in the group which I'm going to welcome on later this week. So yeah, if you're new, it'd be great to get to know you. And if you have any questions as well towards the end, I'm going to be posting a few questions in this group later on this week, just to kind of get some thought-provoking ideas of what sort of things you guys would want to work on. So what is the ability to be able to speak non-passively? Non-passive communicator is an assertive communicator, and everyone thinks when I say assertive that it's like it's a very authoritarian thing, and it's not. Like, you can be a compassionate, assertive communicator because you're communicating your wants, feelings and needs as well as the other person in the room. And it's a kind of energy exchange where you'll be able to bounce things and work and kind of gravitate towards like higher levels of understanding. So an assertive communicator is able to speak clearly about their opinions, their needs and their feelings. They can advocate without apologizing. They have a very, very strong self-esteem and confidence. So I'm going to go through some of the things as well, because we can go, what a lot of people do is they kind of move from one to the other. So they would move from passive to aggressive, or passive aggressive, which is where people can get stuck, because that is a flick switch of ego state and understanding, and that's what that is. It's also, in terms of attachment, that's the anxious avoidant. That's the, I really want to poke and get what I need but now run away. There's no clarity there, and that's also another form of self-sabotage. So talking about aggressive communication styles, so what would an aggressive communicator say? This is all your fault. It's my way or the highway. So there's no understanding, or even like there's not even a chance for that other person to get heard in that conversation. So this is quite complex stuff, but some of the things that there's a lot more in the sort of the course content and the one-to-ones that I'm doing at the moment. So if that's something you're interested in, then let me know, because I have a whole load of videos on this already pre-recorded. So that's something that you're interested in, I can send you that. But some of the things that we can work through with this is, do I believe in what they've just said when you're hearing the other person? Did I enable that person to treat me as inferior? That's another thing that you can think of. How much conversation is give and take? Have you been able to pause? Have you been able to say everything that you want to say in the most clear way, and you're not just going around in circles and circles and circles? And there's other stuff that we can do about that in the way that you communicate. Are you able to get across all the points rather than going, oh yeah, I did this and then and like the communication's lost, because it literally takes 0.75 seconds for somebody to communicate, to engage someone straight away. And there are various ways in which you can do that, but it takes such a short amount of time for somebody to be engaged. So they're either switched on or they're switched off. So if you start talking about something and then you go off on a tangent, they've already lost you by the first few things that you say. I am A. This is the. There's very clear ways to communicate things rather than going off. Did I express in the way that I want to be heard? What impact did I make on that person? How do I want the other person to feel about me? What character do I want to create? What influence do I want to create? What thing in the sentence that I said is the number one thing that I want them to remember? How do I communicate with that with my facial expressions? How do I communicate that with the room around me? How do I communicate that with each individual, knowing their history and their life path and the way that they communicate with me? You have a passive communicator and an aggressive communicator. There's a different ways that you're going to match. You have a assertive communicator and you have a passive communicator, but that's also very introspective. There's different ways that you can communicate that. So they're just a few things. As I said, there's huge more content covered in the course that I've got. So if you're interested, let me know. If you have any questions on this, let me know. If there's anything that you generally feel like you're struggling with at the moment as well, I would love to come on and do a Q&A about that. So I'm going to be posting some questions over this next week, and then hopefully by the end of this week as well, we'll have a Q&A and also have a podcast from Naomi as well, when we're going to be talking about real life experiences, which is the work that I've done with her and the tangible results that she's got in the short period of time that I've worked. Just so you guys can get an idea of this sort of like the content ambassador sort of stuff that's going on. So yeah, take care and I'll see you all soon.